I get lots of questions every day. So in this video, I am going to put a whole bunch of them together and just give you a whole bunch of answers. So I've got all my questions down here. The first question is from Daniel. He says, would you marry me? No. Sorry. Let's see. The next question is from Tamer. He says, hey Snap, how are you? I like your work so much. You are really a special photographer and have a different view. I would like to ask you, are you who you make a Photoshop works or someone else? I think you're asking if I do my own photo editing. And yeah, I do. I used to use Photoshop, but at this point I almost exclusively use Aperture 3, which is an Apple product. Next, Brian asks, I know you have top-end Nikons, but have you seen or used the D7000? I just ordered one. That's awesome. I wouldn't say that I have the top-end Nikons. I do have a D2X, which at one point was a top-end Nikon, but now my D300S is the high-end camera in my collection. I also have a D3100, which is definitely an entry-level Nikon DSLR. So to answer your question, or at least sort of, I have not used a D7000 except for messing around with it in some shops. Because it's similar though to other Nikons, I'm pretty good with it, you know, for the limited amount of time that I've had with it. It seems like a great camera, I guess. Matt asks, since prosumer DSLRs are pushing 30 to 40 megapixels on the sensors, is there still a need for medium format digital cameras? Wowza. That's an interesting question. Of course, you're asking the person that sometimes uses a V1 in the studio. However, there's no doubt that the recent advances in the prosumer line are encroaching, let's say, on the medium format market. You know, they aren't taking over yet, but they appear to be getting there in many respects. Though the near medium format quality goes along with features that medium format does not have, like autofocus and high frames per second. So medium format is great in the studio, but if you want to go out into a fast-moving world, grab a DSLR. Okay, Gerald says, what are your thoughts on the new Nikon 85mm f1.8G lens? Well, my thoughts are that there isn't a lens out there that doesn't interest me in some way. I do love a good fast prime too. This one is marketed as a good portrait lens. On a crop sensor camera, the 85mm gives you an effective field of view of 127mm. Now for me, I won't be purchasing one. Or I should say I'm not planning to purchase one because, you know, my intentions have never stopped me before from making camera purchases. But assuming I don't buy one, here's why. I like a little more flexibility in my lenses. I am always getting new ideas and, you know, changing things up during photo shoots. So if I was doing a portrait shoot with this lens on my D300S, let's say, I would probably end up trying to back up out of the room to get a wider shot, or I'd be changing lenses to get a different look. Of course, that being said, I'm sure it's a really great lens. I really do like the 50mm f1.8G lens on my DX cameras for portraits. It's great for headshots, but it does give me the flexibility to back up a bit in my studio for some wider shots. Next, a question from Brian. Oh, this is the second question from Brian. He says, when did you pick up your first camera and what was it? For me, it was a 110 from a yard sale for $2. It was on from then, and he thinks he was 10 years old when that happened. I've actually answered this question before, but I am more than happy to answer it again. I loved my first camera. It was a 110 as well, but it was neon yellow. And I was probably around 8 years old, I don't know, but I loved it. I loved that camera. Leroy says, hi SnapChick, what do you think about the Nikon D800 model camera? Wait. What do you think about the Nikon D800 model camera? Are you planning on getting it in the near future? Well, I made my first impressions of the D800 into a video, but in short, it interests me, but I'm not ready to take the plunge yet. I'm a little bit holding out for a possible D400, I guess, but like I talked about with the 85mm, just because I'm not planning on buying something doesn't mean that I won't. So we'll see what happens. Let's see, Bernie says, now that camera producers have released new cameras like the Nikon D800, are megapixel sensor sizes just too big as RAW files, and JPEG files just seem to be getting larger. And he points out the differences from, the D800 file sizes are a lot bigger than his D7000 file sizes. I'm not really sure what the question is there, but I can definitely comment on what he said. File sizes are definitely getting bigger and bigger. Many people say that storage is cheap and just brush the comment off. However, I wouldn't. Storage isn't that cheap. You definitely have to think about the memory cards and the storage in your computer, and then on top of that, your backups and archiving. It at least needs to be considered. For me, though, I would say that file size wouldn't affect my, go or no-go decision on purchasing a particular camera body. Let's see, let's go for the last question today. Dario says, are you ever going to travel to Europe? Well, I'm sure I will. I love traveling. So that's it for today. I'll talk to you guys later.